My name is Latasha Jackson, and my sermon is titled Faith Under Fire. I'm excited because it's about my favorite story in the Bible. So I pose this question to you. Are you willing to make the sacrifice of faith for God? I'll be pulling from Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 through 18. Let me give you a little background information on this book. The time was around 600 BC. Jerusalem was a place that honored the Jewish tradition. That meant there were certain things they ate, certain things they did, but most of all, they only worshiped one God. They were later taken over by Babylon, and Babylon was like, buck wow. They worshiped many gods there. And this was in conflict with the Jewish captives because it went against everything they believed in. Now, the key players, you have King Nebuchadnezzar. He's the one who rules over Babylon. And this is his first year in reign when he takes over Jerusalem. So this is a big deal for him because Jerusalem was a rich city and it had great people that he could take back with him to work under him. So he got a big head after this. Next, you have the three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These are three captives taken from Jerusalem over to Babylon to work under the king. They still are allowed to practice their Jewish tradition, so they become blessed and they become high officials in the palace. Next, you have the Chaldeans. Now, the Chaldeans are the ones who trained these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So just keep that in mind. Now, chapter 3 opens in verses 1 through 7 with a description of a big ceremony that the king is having. And at the ceremony, he has invited everyone there, and all of the rich and famous people are there. That would be like the Obamas, Oprah, Beyonce, you and me, because he wanted everyone to be there. And at this ceremony, he had a 90 feet golden statue placed in the middle of the city. And he made a command that when music is played, they are to bow down and worship this statue. Really, it was just an extension of him. He saw everyone bow down in worshiping him. Verses 8 through 15, you have the Chaldeans. They're watching these three men and they see them rise in the palace. So they start to get jealous and they start to conspire against these three men. So they go to the king and they tell the king, oh, king, you know how we love worshiping you when we hear that music. You know what you should do? You should make it a decree that everyone must worship you when the music is played. So the big head king signs the decree. So later on, they come back and they tell the king, we have three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They do not honor your decree. So the king is angered and he tells them to bring the men to him. So they bring them in and he asks them, you know, when the music is played, do you bow? And the men tell him no. So the king was like, okay, I'm in a good mood. You know, I'll play the music again and you must bow or be thrown in the furnace. Right here is the point where these men's faith is under fire. The last two verses I'll read you is their reply to the king. If our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire and out of your hand, O king, let him deliver us. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods and we will not worship the golden statue that you have set. Just think about that for a minute. Just let that marinate on what just happened here with these men when their faith was literally under fire. Let's just see how we can apply this scripture to our daily lives. Okay, let's just say the statue. That represents anything that we worship. I don't mean like literally bow down and worship too. I mean like anything that we spend more time doing than God. That's worshiping. You have King Nebuchadnezzar. Peer pressure. He wanted these men to go against their religious beliefs, to do something they didn't want to do. We face that all the time when it comes to time to do what's right. And even when it comes to the time to do what's wrong, we're faced with peer pressure because we have those in our ear pointing us in the wrong direction. You have the three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They represent us, the Christians of the world today. Matthew 7:13-14 says, enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction. For there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it. There were only three men up there out of an entire city. That tells you they represent us Christians. And we need to be like these men. We need to have that faith and stay on that road and have tunnel vision while we're on that road. The furnace, that's just persecution. The fire just represents the pain, the anger, the hurt that we go through as Christians when we're trying to do what's right. Now the Chaldeans, we all know who those people are. I hate us. They are the haters. They are the ones who try to prevent us from doing what's right. But we have to have faith. We have to have faith like these three men did. I tell you, my faith is tested every day. Those verses wouldn't have ended like that with me sometimes, because I look at that fire and I look at my girls and be like, I need to holler at the king. And I go, oh king, oh majesty, oh how art thou? Let me explain something to you. I just didn't like the beat. If you could change that to a reggae, we got a deal. That's how I feel sometimes when it comes to faith, like just giving up. It's hard. But we have to have faith like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. Faith is just hope. These men didn't care what the outcome was. They told him, we good if we die because we're with God. We're good if we live. We won't serve your gods, but God will get the glory from it. They didn't know the outcome of that, but they had faith that God will deliver them. They weren't up there begging for their lives. Like these three men, we should always stand for what's right. I want you guys to please, you heathens, go finish and read this book. It's amazing because you just don't know how far faith takes you. These men were blessed after this. Only because they have faith. God honored those who have faith. These men went on to live good lives in the palace and do great things. And that's what we have to learn to expect. No matter what the outcome is, it's for our good. Look at these men. Just imagine that. These men got to shine in front of the Chaldeans who conspired to bring them down. Just imagine that when you shine and pop your collars in front of your haters after God blessing you only for having faith. We have to be like these men. God is greater than any punishment. We can expect deliverance from the... They weren't up there begging for their lives. They didn't have hope in living. They didn't care. And that's how we have to be when we're faced with persecution. We have to do what's right no matter what the outcome is. Because we know if we do what's right, it's for the will of God and it's for our better. Whether we live or whether we die. I'd rather have faith in God than anything. I have yet to see a person return, but I know that Jesus will return because we serve a living God. Our faith should not be in the hope of deliverance from suffering. It should be in God. Thank you. Hope someone was blessed from it.